All right, so we're joined now by Joe DiGenova, our legal analyst. Okay, Joe, you know, this owner of the Clippers, this guy Sterling, had said some really outrageous and racist things. Is there anything from your perspective, from a legal analyst perspective, that they can do legally against this guy?
Well, generally, all of these relationships between owners in professional sports teams and the league are the subject of agreements which are signed by the owners when they become an owner, and they accept the rules and regulations of the league. There probably are things that the commissioner of the NBA can do in what's called the interest of the game. Certainly in baseball, the baseball commissioner has the right almost unilaterally to do things to players as well as owners. And that's why, for many years, there has not been an independent commissioner in baseball, but rather an owner has been the commissioner in baseball, Bud Selig. I'm sure the NBA commissioner will try to do something, but legally, that really depends upon what the nature of the specific contract is with the NBA. My guess is that Mr. Sterling, they're not going to be able to force him to sell the team. I'm quite sure they do not have that right. But Mr. Sterling is a billionaire. And my guess is he'll try to weasel his way out of this, just like most billionaires do when they do something stupid.
So it's a public relations problem, but nothing that can come at him from a legal standpoint.
I don't think legally they can take the team from him.
Let me ask you.
They can make life miserable for him in the league.
Oh, sure. And let me ask you. I mean, this is contract law, but I'm just curious if actually any of the players could claim maybe a federal civil rights case here in this way, and give me some leeway here.
Well,
because they're under contract. Can't they say, listen, if I had known this about this guy, I would never have signed this contract and worked for him?
No, these are all adults. They can't claim a hostile work environment since it seems these folks are being paid millions and millions of dollars, and up until the other day, there were no complaints about him. And what was known about him was he was rather raucous at times and said some pretty wild things. He's in his 80s. He's a billionaire. My guess is they were thrilled to take his money, and while some of them may object playing for him, they may not have the right not to play for him. That, again, is a matter of contract, and the terms under which they can refuse to play are very specific in these NBA contracts, and I don't think this is one of the terms.
It's going to be fascinating to watch how it falls out, I think that's for sure, and everyone's talking about it. Hey, Joe, you're a former U.S. attorney. Let me turn your sights northward. U.S. Attorney Paul Fishman up in New Jersey has issued a subpoena to State of New Jersey Legislative Committee that is looking into the closing of the George Washington Bridge. Why is this a U.S. attorney's business?
If the closing of the bridge involved misuse of federal funds or lying to federal investigators that were investigating it, it would be a legitimate interest for the United States attorney.
Well, what's the crime?
Well, there could be all kinds of crimes involving diversion of federal highway money, interstate, the obstruction of interstate travel. There's all kinds of things that a U.S. attorney can hang his hat on. It's not exactly the kind of crime that if I were a U.S. attorney I would spend any time on, but Mr. Fishman is very political, and he's been working very closely with the committee up in New Jersey, which, of course, is Democrats, and Mr. Fishman is a Democrat.
Is it, I mean, obviously you don't have firsthand knowledge, but when you look at this and you see that Mr. Fishman, you know his track record, do you think it's possible that he's acting on his own, or do you think maybe there was a call from the Attorney General saying, hey, Paul, might want to look into this whole thing? Christie?
I doubt it. Even though this is perhaps one of the most political justice departments in history, a call like that from the Attorney General would eventually be found out about, and it would be a devastating, this is not, if it's a crime, it's not the crime of the century. This is more an investigation, I think, for a legislative committee, which the New Jersey legislature is doing.
Right.
They haven't come up with anything after a lengthy investigation, and some of that is because many of the key witnesses has taken the Fifth Amendment, which is their right to do. So what's really strange here is that the U.S. attorney is subpoenaing a fellow investigative body for its records, which they have the right to turn over if they choose to do so.
Yes.
Now, they may be refusing to turn over those records, in which case this will be a very interesting legal battle, because I don't think the U.S. attorney has a right to these documents under federalism principles. So this is probably a subpoena that the committee may have asked for in order to say that it had no choice. That would be very political, and we shall have to see what the reasons are for it.
Can I just a quick follow-up on that, because you say the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, Paul Fishman, is, I think you said, extremely political, right? Yes. Does he have any connection with the Clinton family by any chance? I'm just curious, because, having a federal investigation hanging over Governor Christie would certainly be a good thing for Hillary.
I don't know the answer to that, but it wouldn't be beyond the realm of possibility, since New Jersey, as you know, is quite close to New York.
Yes, it is. I just
one has
there.
heard that. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of the Department of Justice, one is hearing, and there have been a couple of stories written that Eric Holder has basically said, "I ain't going nowhere." That there was a time when he perhaps contemplated that he was going to get out and leave and go do something else. But after all the attacks on him, and after he's become such a target by some on the right, and I would say justifiably so, he sort of just said, "Screw it, I'm here for the long haul." What do you think?
I would imagine he's going to stay as long as he can. I think his wife does not want him to stay much longer. She's a doctor, as you know, a very well-known doctor in town. I just can't see. Most of his major initiatives are underway. This new clemency initiative, for example, comes from a combination of the president and the attorney general speaking together about the ways to affect the black community, and that comes mostly through drug sentencing clemency, which the president has rolled out. And by the way, for all of the objections to it, and people in Congress screaming and yelling about he can't do this, yes, he can. The president has vast powers under the clemency provisions of the Constitution, and I'm glad he's exercising them. I might not exercise them this way, but at least he's doing something to reinvigorate the clemency process in our government, which under Republican presidents has been a nightmare. I mean, you couldn't get clemency for needy people no matter what the cause was under both Bushes. Really quite an embarrassment that the Bush family, for all of its vaunted generosity, were some of the most nasty, meanest people when it came to clemency. But not as nasty as John Boehner criticizing his own people over immigration.
I wanted to pivot really quickly to immigration while we have about a minute left. Yeah, what did you make of that?
John Boehner has done a lot of dumb things, but this takes the cake. Making fun of his own caucus when he's trying to figure out ways to do immigration. Well, here's a signal for the speaker. You don't do anything about immigration until you win the Senate in 2014. Then you do immigration, and you do it your way. To do it now, just because a bipartisan bill, quote unquote, passed the Senate, is numbness of the brain of the worst kind. But beyond the substance, the way he did it is almost like it's like a suicide.
Oh, you know what? We have it for those of you who didn't hear it. Here it is.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we're going to get to it this year or not. I think we should. But the appetite amongst my colleagues for doing this is not real good. And this guy's back here with a camera. But here's the attitude. Oh, don't make me do this. Oh, this is too hard. You should hear him.
He's done,
wow.
Isn't he? This is a clue that he's on his way out.
I don't know whether or not he had his afternoon wine out in Ohio, where he was visiting, giving a speech at the local Rotary Club. But if you're a leader, that's not the way you talk about your people. That's the way Harry Reid talks about Republicans.
Yeah.
That's not the way Boehner should talk about Republicans.
Great point, Joe.
It's embarrassing.
Great point. Thanks, Joe DiGenova.
Okay, guys.
And we'll pick up this discussion in just a moment on immigration. Thank you so much, Joe.
You bet, guys.